Hello, beautiful humans of Earth. It is I, Christina, here at Fit and Bendy with part 2 of our spinal flexibility and health series. And we are going to get deeper into the muscles that support our spine going forward and backward. You will need a prop for this. I highly recommend one of these 10-inch physio balls. If you do not have one, a pillow works as well. All right, we're going to start on the floor. So meet me down there with your spine. We're going to have the squishy ball next to us, but we're not going to need it for this first sequence. We're just going to start by warming up the spine on hands and knees. And I really like just feeling the hands nice and heavy on the floor, fingers spread out, knees right underneath the hips, and walk the hands just a little bit closer to the knees than would normally feel comfortable. Then we're going to press our limbs down into the floor and exhale and round that spine up towards the ceiling, finding that deep flexion. I'm thinking of bringing my armpits and my hip bones as close together as possible. Then on the inhale, I'm bringing my chest closer to my chin, using my back muscles to bring my tailbone up towards the ceiling. And you'll notice that as I do this movement, I'm not moving my head at all. I'm keeping my head nice and still. And that's because the neck is one of the more mobile parts of the spine, and it's really easy when we're first warming up the spine to go directly to the parts of the spine that move more easily for us, like the neck. And so I'm just giving the rest of my spine a chance to warm up and get nice and gooey before I add the neck in. Let's do one more inhale. And then come back to neutral. And we're going to do a little tail wag side to side. So I'm bringing shoulders and hips towards each other and feeling those oblique muscles in the side of my waist and scrunching them in. And then I'm going to stop in my left tail wag, and I'm going to move my left hand out, right hand out, left foot out, right foot out. So now it's like I'm trying to turn around and look at my own butt. There's lots of looking at butts in this. And we're going to inhale and exhale and do our same spinal movement in this slight curve. So that's going to change things. It's going to emphasize the muscles on the left side of my body. When I'm in my inhale position, I can really feel the muscles along the left side of my spine, my left obliques. And then when I'm in my exhale position and I round up towards the ceiling, then I can really feel the abs on the left side. So I'm trying to emphasize this part of my body. And most of us are a little lopsided in where we're strong and aware in our bodies. So this is a great way of training one side and then the other and feeling the difference and trying to even them out over time. Let's do one more. Exhale and inhale. And then we're going to go the other direction. So I'm going to come back to center and then right hand out. Left hand out, right foot out, left foot out, looking around for my left butt, and starting with the exhale, rounding my spine up to the ceiling, and inhale. And as I move back and forth, I'm just noticing if this side feels different than the other side. For me, it does a little bit, so I'm noticing that and paying attention to where my body might need a little bit of extra attention. Make sure that as you go, you're trying to get every time a little bit deeper into the movement. Feel a little bit more of your spine. It's just a warm up, so it's really about feeling and experiencing. Let's do one more. Exhale and inhale and come back to center. All right. So now we're going to really focus on finding the lowest muscles that support our spine through the pelvic floor and the lower abs. So I find the squishy ball to be extremely helpful here. We're going to take the squishy ball and squish it between the thighs and come back to hands and knees. And as soon as you've got the squishy ball there, then there's extra work having to happen through those inner thighs. You can feel the inner thighs having to work to squeeze into the squishy ball. Those inner thigh muscles connect up into our pelvis and go right into the same place as our pelvic floor. So as we find our exhale, I'm not so worried about what's going on with my upper body right now. I'm just trying to keep that locked in place. I'm trying to tuck my tailbone under, And I'm thinking about that extra squeeze with the inner thighs as I lift my lower back up to the ceiling. And using that inner thigh squeeze to try to connect to the muscles of the pelvic floor, there's a feeling of lift inside the pelvis. And then on the inhale, I'm going to go the opposite direction, but I'm still keeping that squeeze on the ball the entire time. The emphasis here is definitely going to be on the tuck. This is where I'm trying to get that end range of motion strength. I'm trying to go to the very limits of my flexibility, feel that stretch through my lower back. And inhale, switch directions. We're going to do a couple more of these. Every time trying to find a new relationship, a deeper relationship with those muscles inside the pelvis, the lower part of the abs. I'm almost thinking like my hip bones are trying to pull in towards each other. And exhaling, you see there's nothing really going on from the rib cage up. I'm really focusing on my lower back and trying to create that space in my lower back. We're just going to hang out here in this position. I'm almost feeling like I'm trying to drive my knees forward towards my hands, my belly button's lifting, pubic bones coming forward, tailbone dropping down towards the floor. Squeeze that ball and relax. In this next position, we're going to take advantage of some of the anatomy to get a little bit more release through the lower back by internally rotating the legs. So I'm bringing my feet apart, and how far apart your feet go is going to depend on your body and how much internal rotation you have. But the main thing is that you want to feel that the rotation's coming from the thigh bones, not just from the knees. So I'm not just kind of walking out from the knees. I'm rotating my thigh bones to get my feet out. And that's going to create a little bit more space in my lower back. And let's see if we can take advantage of that space again, finding that squeeze with the inner thighs, rounding the lower back up towards the ceiling. And inhale, relax. And on the arch, you might feel a little bit of compression in the front of your hips, and that's a-okay. Just don't push into it too hard if it hurts. You can kind of go up to that feeling of pinchiness and just be like, oh, hey, hello, I feel that. But this is an important range of motion for us to work on. Really good for preventing lower back pain. To work this position in internal rotation. Let's do one more of these. Deep, deep tuck, lifting that lower back up to the ceiling. And relax it down. And now we're just going to squoogee that right foot around, and I'm coming back into my tail chasing position, right? I'm looking back at my own butt, and again, squeezing and tucking the pelvis under and getting that rounding through the lower back. And inhale, tail goes up to the ceiling. And I'm using that squishy ball to inspire my inner thighs to work. And now I'm especially trying to feel this in that tucked position through the left part of my lower abs. I'm actually really getting into my psoas strength here. I can exaggerate that even more by, as I tuck, feeling like I'm trying to drag my left knee forward while I squeeze it in. And it creates a lot of work and sort of deep compression through the front of the abs that's really good for lengthening out my back. Let's do one more of those. And relax it down. And now we're going to go the other direction. So noop, 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 around with the feet. Walk the hands around, looking for my right butt, chasing my tail over here. And let's find that tuck. So now I'm trying to feel the muscles on the right side of my body in this position. And like I said, might be a difference right to left here, but try to use the same cues for yourself. So I've got those lower abs working. That right inner thigh is really working to squeeze into the squishy ball. Maybe even that feeling of dragging that right knee a little bit forward, like I'm trying to bring it towards my chest, but it's sticking on the floor. To feel that deep engagement through the front of the body, lengthening out the lower back, creating space in the lower back. Because if we want spinal flexibility in any direction, if we want a back bend, we got to have a forward bend. They need to both be developed simultaneously for the spine to stay healthy. All right, let's come on back to center. And I'm just going to keep the squishy ball here for this next part, just to remind myself to engage those muscles in the pelvic floor and keep them working. as a support for my lower back. But now we're going to focus on isolating the upper back from the lower back. So in this position, I'm sitting nice and solid on my heels, and I'm locking my pelvis in place. So I'm going to try to not let my pelvis move. The inner thigh squeeze helps with that. I'm trying to find a neutral pelvis. So I'm not tucked, I'm not arched. I'm going to put my hands on my thighs, and gently pressing down on my thighs, I'm going to try to lift my chest towards my chin without arching in my lower back, right? So this is what it would look like if I arched my lower back and did it. So much easier. And I'm going to try not to do that as just my chest lifts. And the hands pressing down are a good way of trying to trigger those muscles in the back, the mid back that lift the ribs up and forward. It's also a good way of reminding you not to let your shoulders come up, which is not what we want either. We don't want sort of like Frankenstein looking thing. So pushing down with the hands, chest lifts. And it can help to use your breath here, although you don't want to be dependent on it, to think of this as an inhale. And let lift like this is a helium balloon. And exhale. So that's a good way to sort of get it to start with if you're struggling with finding the muscles, but eventually you want to be able to just talk through the entire exercise and separate the muscles that control the spine from the diaphragm, the breathing muscle, right? Let's do a couple more of these. And then we're going to stop with the chest lifted, and now we're going to give the neck a chance to warm itself up too. We're going to isolate the spine in this position. If you have a delicate neck, you can lean forward a little bit more, and that's going to take some of the pressure of gravity off of it. Otherwise, you can just stay in this position. With the chest lifted, it's going to give you a lot more support and mobility in your neck. And we're going to drop the chin and lift the base of the skull up to the ceiling, and then think about lifting the chin. And just going back and forth between those two positions. And I really like to do this with the chest in the lifted position because it creates a lot more space for the neck. If I'm here, with my chest dropped, when I lift my chin, crunch. Let's do one more. And back to center. All right, we got nice and gooey. Let's carry on. So you can just put your squishy ball to the side. We're not going to need it for right now. And we're going to get into loosening up the hips just a little bit and feeling that relationship between loosening up the hips and a release in the lower back because they're neighbors and they are inextricably linked. What one does, the other responds to. So I'm just loosening up my hips a little bit here, feeling what's going on with my pelvis. Oop, just got a really big pop in my left hip. Very exciting. So we're going to internally rotate the left hip, externally rotate the right hip, and sit up in our mermaid stretch. If you have a hard time sitting in this position, sit on a pillow or two or sit on your squishy ball. Elevate your butt a little bit. The goal is to eventually get that butt flat on the floor, but it might not happen today. And also through the sequence, be very careful of your knees. If your knees hurt, either don't do it or don't go as deep. We do not want to mess with the knees here, all right? The hope is to feel in the hip and the back, but not the knee. Sitting up nice and tall, cross the arms over the chest like Dracula, waking up from the coffin, and we're going to twist to the left. And the idea here is to feel those waist muscles. So we're getting a few different things accomplished in one exercise, something I really like. We are using our hip muscles and we're compressing them and working them to help get the twist. We're using our oblique muscles. We're warming up the twisting in our spine, which is one of our very important spinal functions. And we're getting ready to do a deep spinal release. So when we hold in this position, and then I start to lean over this leg, I'm starting to stretch out my lower back, especially the left side of my lower back. The combination, the internal rotation of this left hip and this leaning forward is creating all the space in my lower back. It feels really good. I like to flex my foot in this position. It does help protect the knee a little bit, so I'm pressing my foot down into the floor. And I'm using my hands to bring myself a little bit deeper into the twist to feel that deep release through the spine. So I'm thinking of my spine curling up and over like a leaf as I lean down towards this leg. And just breathe in this position. I'm thinking about driving this knee towards this foot, almost like I'm trying to slide it along the floor to get even deeper into the compression of that left hip. All right, come on out. You can lean back on your hands. Let's go back to that flip-flop, little windshield wipers. Hopefully that left hip feels extra juicy now. And now we're going to do the same thing with the right leg in internal rotation. So again, sit on something if you need to. Keep in mind your hips might feel different in this, right to left, flexing that foot. And I'm going to sit up as tall as I can and twist to the right, using my waist muscles to bring myself over my right foot. And I'm thinking about driving my right knee to the left to help me get deeper into the use of those hip muscles, getting those hip muscles to shorten so that my lower back can lengthen, because it's all connected, folks. And just breathe into it. Feel where your spine is today. Feel how it's doing. The hands like this I like because you don't want to feel like you're using your shoulders, right? So I'm not pulling with my shoulders to get around. I'm moving my entire upper body, my entire rib cage, all coming together. All right, let's twist over to the left. I'm going to bring my hands down to the floor and lean over that left leg. And I'm just going to breathe and hang out here. You can use the hands to help you get a little deeper into the twist, lean over that leg, and try to feel that lengthening through the right side of the lower back. I'm still engaging my hip a little bit, so I'm still trying to push my knee towards my foot, squeezing that hip in, which is going to help me get deeper into the twist, a little bit more release through the back, a little bit more lengthening. And breathe here for 3, 2, 1, and lean back. Windshield wiper those knees. One more time. And let's get into some back extension. All right, we are going to use this squishy ball to help us feel our upper back muscles. So you're going to lay down on your belly, and we're going to take the squishy ball and we're going to wedge it underneath the top of our rib cage. So it's basically going to be right where the solar plexus is, where the 2 points of the ribs come together. And for some folks, this might feel really uncomfortable and make it feel hard to breathe, in which case you could try using a rolled up towel or a softer pillow, something less aggressive than squishy ball. If you have boobs, just pitch them up over the top. And we're going to lay all the way down and just let our spine forward round over that squishy ball and relax for a moment. I can feel my shoulder blades pulling apart. I'm creating space in my upper back, little tuck in the pelvis. And then I'm going to take both hands and I'm going to interlace them behind my head. I'm going to press my head gently up into my hands gently pressed down, elbows out to the side, and we're going to find a lift and a lower. And so I'm really trying to use those upper back muscles that lift the rib cage. Now, if you feel this immediately going into your lower back, try tucking your pelvis slightly, and you won't come up nearly as high, and that's okay. It's not really about getting a lot of height right now. It's about feeling the way that those upper back muscles work to create a back bend in your upper back, which is the hardest part of the back to get a back bend to work for. So we're really using those upper back muscles. By keeping my hands behind my head and my head pressed into my hands, I am feeling that I am engaging my neck muscles, but I'm not allowing my neck to lead the way. So what I don't want is that I'm lifting my head first and then lifting with my neck. If I touch my neck with my thumbs back here, there shouldn't be any creases in the back of my neck. On this next one, we're going to stop at the top and extend the arms out long. Just reach forward with the arms and feel that lift from the shoulders to really get those upper back muscles nice and strong. Maybe lift a little bit higher here for 3, 2, 1, and come on down. Get rid of that squishy ball. Very relaxing. Move everything around. It should feel kind of good. We are now going to do the same thing for the lower part of the back. So we all have the option to use a squishy ball. Again, some people find this extremely uncomfortable, in which case you can use something that's less pokey than the squishy ball, or just nothing at all if you're flexible enough. But if you're new to this, elevating the pelvis is going to make it a lot easier. We're going to lay down. I like to rest my forehead on my hands, take my upper back out of it, and we're going to try to lift and lower with the lower body. And so my butt is definitely working here, but I'm really trying to feel this in my lower back. So right above my butt. And those muscles are really important for our back bends and for keeping our spine just healthy and strong in general. You gotta have strong muscles in the lower back. Now you can do this with your feet closer together. It is a lot harder. I find that extremely challenging to get my legs high and have them be closer together, but it's worth giving it a shot to feel that extra strength. Let's do 3 more. And 2. And on this last one, we're going to lift and just hold it up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and come on down. Let's get that squishy ball out of there. Should feel like quite a relief to get the squishy ball out of there. All right, keeping that nearby where you can grab it again. We're now going to use those muscles that we just developed to feel our cobra. So let's break that cobra down. And by the way, there is another video linked below that's all about back bending anatomy and cobra. So please check that out if you want more info on the subject. Feel like you're trying to slide your chest forward and tuck your pelvis under. So I'm really starting by trying to feel my upper back work. I'm using those upper back muscles to lift with my chest forward. So my hands are down, but they're not even really doing anything at this point, just using my upper back. To come up higher, now I am using my hands a little bit, but as little as possible. I'm feeling those lower back muscles work to lift my body up. Let's do that again, and we're not adding the neck yet. The neck is really just the icing on the cobra cake, all right? It's not so necessary. We're focusing primarily on the other parts of the spine. So again, my chest comes forward, my ribs lift up, and my shoulders are down. My shoulder blades are apart. Then I'm trying to find my lower back muscles. And I'm using my hands as little as possible to come up. And now if I want to add that upper back or neck rather extension, I'm thinking about lifting my chest to get my chin back. What I don't want is to sink between my shoulder blades. That's going to squish my neck and make my upper back sad. So there's a lot of muscle here. My arms are working as little as possible. And to come back down, I'm really trying to control the descent. Again, as little help from the arms as possible. All back muscles. So yummy. All right, now that we've done some back bending, I like to end my session with some forward bending, just to make sure that you're not walking around with your back stuck in a back bend. So let's take that squishy ball again and put it back between the thighs to feel that connection from the inner thighs up into the pelvic floor. Toes are just floating on the floor, and we are going to tuck that pelvis under. Gentle squeeze in with both thighs. And here, we're going to float the toes up completely. And I'm trying to tuck my pelvis under as much as I can to roll backwards and back up. And because my back doesn't bend forwards very well, it feels a little bit like driving with a flat tire. But the idea here is to use as much of your abs as possible to try to round out the back, just the way we did in our warm-up. And I love the little massage effect that you get here by rolling back and forth. Let's do one more. And then we're going to extend the legs out, lean forward over those legs, get that nice stretch through the back. And you did it! The most important thing with spinal flexibility is to be consistent. Just make this part of your regular practice at least 3 times a week to really see and feel progress in your body. Please like, comment if you have questions, follow us for lots of juicy tidbits, and as always, beautiful folks, happy bendings.